So this day and age, everything is about optimization, right? Search engine optimizing the human body for the best athletic performance, optimizing the performance of your car with routine maintenance and, fluids and oil changes, and always staying on top of the function of whatever it is we are tapping into. And the human body and the human body computer and your life and your soul experience has that exact same reality to it, which is that there is an optimization of the human experience that is not only possible, but that is necessary. So when we are trying to transform our lives into that greatest version of ourselves, we got to take stock of where that human body computer is currently. What is the current state of that? So if you imagined it kind of like a car, and you were taking your car in for servicing, obviously us at different ages, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, we're going to be at different operating levels. The car's been on a road for much longer or shorter. It's been exposed to salt or the elements, right? These are going to affect the performance of the car. So the human being is exactly the same way. And if we've got a bunch of trauma and bitterness and resentment over decades, that is going to manifest a very particular and certain way. And without any question and no doubt about it, it will affect the optimization of that being's experience. So gratitude, something you guys have heard so much about. And my intention here is to just kind of like break these things down and make them digestible, make them make sense. So that they don't just feel like spiritual marketplace nonsense, because unfortunately I think a lot of that has occurred as well. And these are really practical, really useful tools that don't need to be commodified in that way, or they don't need to be sensationalized, and they don't need to be thought of as woo-woo. This is just practical, straight up shit that we need to do, and it's going to help us, right? So gratitude. When we take it out of the spiritual marketplace and we take it out of its branding and commodification, and we actually think about it as a concept, and we think about it in the sense of like, what is it that people are trying to communicate to us about gratitude, and why would it be profound to my life, and why does it hold the ability to transform my life? And I would answer that by saying, because the human body computer machine runs better when it's optimized. And with all the different settings, like a pilot will get into the cockpit and make sure that everything is where it needs to be before they take off. If we were to look at ourselves that way, we would be looking at our rest. We would be looking at our nervous system. We would be looking at our brainwave states. We'd be looking at all the things that affect how we feel on a daily basis as we move through our daily lives. And gratitude, the way I look at it is very polar. It's hot or cold, it's on or off. I know this because of my own experience, and I'll explain that as rapidly as I can here in a moment, because as I speak about this, it doesn't mean that I've always known this and I knew about this the whole time. I absolutely did not. And I will say, full disclaimer, that I thought I was a grateful person until I found out what that really meant. And now I've become a grateful person, but I can admit that the older version of myself, didn't behave and act and optimize myself in the way of gratitude. And so in the end, what I'm going to ask you guys to do is just kind of going back to changing some habits, changing some inputs to change some outputs, is to just start a little 2-minute thing in the morning and a 2-minute thing at night, where you're just going to check in on yourself. You're going to give thanks to whatever it is you give thanks to, and just take a moment to share what you're grateful for. So I like to keep it simple. I like to, because it helps ground me and bring me back home and make me realize what I have. So I like to be, just mention the roof over my head, the wheels on the car, the food in the refrigerator, the money in the bank. I like to just take a moment every single day to just thank those things and to be grateful for those things. And then usually at night, I can be a little bit more reflective of the day and just kind of shout out some of the things that occurred during that day that I'm really grateful for. Now, why is it profound? Why is it so important? Because when I say it's polar, What I mean is it's either one way or the other. So you're either going to optimize the performance of this vehicle to gratitude, or you're going to optimize the performance of this vehicle to lack. You don't get a position in between. So our culture, unfortunately, has us veering towards lack. Our culture, I mean, we have so many ads, right? I'm sure you guys are so annoyed with all the ads all over all the platforms and in your just daily life. And my issue with ads is that it sends the signal that you do not have everything that you need. And so the ads are so predatory. Every ad right now, you need to articulation training. You need to do this. You need to learn how to do AI. You need to do this. All it does is beat somebody up and make them feel like they're not enough. So I mute ads until I can skip them. I do all these things. It's so important because I just won't allow those things into my sphere. They're contamination. They're true contamination, vibrational contamination. And I know you feel the same way because they don't make us feel good. They don't empower us. They don't tell us we're beautiful, we're talented, we're the bee's knees. They don't tell us these things, and they should, because we are. So optimizing to gratitude allows you to focus on what you do have. All of a sudden you're looking at the food in your fridge. All of a sudden you're looking at the books on your shelf. All of a sudden you're looking at the records in your collection. All of a sudden you're looking at when it rains, if you even had a puncture hole in your roof, it'd be raining on you in your bed as you're trying to sleep. You have running water, you have heat, you have things that a high percentage of the population of this planet don't have. If you're tapping into this video right now, most likely you have it better than 75% of people on this planet. And when we don't recognize that and calibrate to it, we start that curmudgeon life. We start that ritual negativity. We start our days giving away our power, focusing on what we don't have, letting ads make us feel like we are incomplete as people, as humans, as entities, as beings. And then therefore it's no wonder that we feel empty, we feel, hopelessness on this planet, because our entire gaze, our entire focus has fallen on what we do not have. The life that hasn't panned out, the money that's not in the bank, the cars we don't own, the records or books that we have yet to procure. This endless focus on what we don't have truly contaminates the being and its operation and optimization. So what we're talking about here is just optimizing your experience, optimizing your life. And that doesn't need to be emotional. That doesn't need to be unnecessarily. Right now, I'm always talking spiritual, but right now I'm not talking spiritual. I'm just talking practical. I'm talking mechanics. Bring our mechanics into alignment so that this thing functions how we want it to function. And so I'll give an example. This was probably 6 months ago. I'm pulling out of a parking spot in a kind of center town kind of area, the little busy part of a center town square kind of thing, and didn't see it, but almost pulled in and backed directly into a car. It was about to be one of those very quick, very short, but like relatively high velocity impacts, and somehow stopped just short, both on my part and the other person's part, and had that moment of like, oh crap, wow. And you know how we all had this experience, and we had that feeling like you dodged a bullet, right? Of course I noticed that at the time. But the difference here is that later that night when I went to bed and I went to do my little ritual, my little prayer at night, and, citing what I was grateful for, I'm running through the things, and I can't even remember what they all were. But maybe I walked on the beach, maybe I had a great meal, maybe whatever it was. And I'm just kind of going through it. And I did not remember that event. And I'm going through, I'm probably on my 10th thing. I'm just, I'm jogging my mind trying to think of what I can be grateful for. And it wasn't until the 10th, 11th, 12th thing that came into my mind where I remembered that event. And it was only 8 hours before, this evening prayer. And I kind of had that, oh shit, I completely forgot about this. And so I cited it, and I remembered how grateful I was. And then I thought about, why was I so grateful? And you know the answer to this, but I'm going to tell you. Because it is such a pain in the ass to get in a automotive accident. It is such a pain in the ass, and you know it. insurance, police, drama. It hijacks your day, hours taken out of your day, so much taken out of your energy and your life force and your vibration. Everything plummets and sinks and comes down to like, oh crap, I have this thing to deal with and it's going to affect and throw off my whole day, right? Because we've been through it, and you've been through it, and I've been through it. And that day, for some reason, I was blessed and I did not have to go through that. But the old version of me 6 years ago would have remembered it when it happened and forgot about it later that night. And maybe I'm scrolling that night looking at some things that I don't have, thinking, oh, I wish I had that, and putting my gaze back on what I don't have. And that loop of just endlessly looking at what you don't have and never remembering how close you came to that accident, how close you came to something going wrong, how close you came to all these events being more severe and worse than they actually were. Gratitude, and having a practice to tap into that gratitude, allows you to focus your gaze on that. And when you focus your gaze on that, everything transforms in your life. Genuinely, everything transforms. And you're a magnet, right? You're magnetic. So you're going to continue to magnetize things that match your vibration. And by tapping into gratitude, at least 2 minutes in the morning, 2 minutes in the evening, do that for 30 days. It's super simple, and see what happens. See if things change for you a little bit in like what is naturally attracted to you, what is gravitating towards you as you sit in that energy a little bit more and you calibrate your day to that instead of calibrating it to the scroll and to the doom news and to all the things that you don't have, because something transformative happens within. It's an alchemical transformation that happens, and it changes your life. It's extremely profound. It changes your outlook. It changes your vibration. It changes how you move through this world and how you interact with people, and you become more and more grateful for the smallest of things. The smallest of things. It's like bird poops on your shoulder instead of on your head. Like, it gets that microscopic and minuscule because you start to become that vigilant with the right thing. Not vigilant with your lack, but vigilant with your abundance. Vigilant with what you have and how much there is to celebrate. Because we're all going to die, and that death will cause a completely transformative way of looking at your life and all the events of your life. And you will see that you got a bit too petty, that you started worrying about things that don't matter, that you allowed things that weren't important to dictate your feeling and your vibe and your flow for that day. And human being optimization is about understanding your power so that you can direct that power how you want it to go. So optimize this vehicle. Optimize it so it works best for you. This isn't spiritual marketplace crap. This isn't like over sensationalizing anything. This is about how we are learning we're learning so much about ourselves, and then we get to pour back into ourselves, and we get to restore this thing from the inside out. And that's how we become the greatest version of ourselves, the most abundant version of ourselves. Because I'll tell you right now, the most abundant, the most fulfilled, the most passionate, and the most hopeful version of you is going to be the most grateful version of you. There's no doubt about that. So that's all I got. Keep it short. See if you can do something at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. Do it for 30 days. Just tap into that a little bit before you start your morning routines and all those other things that you do, and help optimize yourself for, the best function and the best performance, because so much more is there, and it's just waiting, and we're ready. And you know that because you're here. So I love you guys. Peace.